All right, I started filming hella late. I meant to film this way earlier in the day, but it's literally Sunday now. But I'm home, I'm ready, but I'm going to get into it. This is week 3 for my digital journals, and if you haven't noticed, I'm calling it HIFAWIP, which stands for How I Feel About What I Played. This week I have a lot of stuff that I've talked about before, but I'll try to keep it interesting. First up, the Xenoblade update this week. I've made it farther than I previously did on the 3DS, and the lore is definitely building. To summarize the story so far, I'm playing as Shulk, who lives on the corpse of some sort of dead deity called the Bionis, which was once locked in a timeless battle with another dead deity named the Mechonis. And there's a species of machines called the Mechon that have come to kill their people, which are... humans are called Homs, as far as I can tell. All of the Homs live on the Bionis. And the Mechon come and kill this girl named Fiora, who might have otherwise been my goat of the story, but she's not around anymore. During the invasion that kills her, Shulk becomes the wielder of the legendary sword / magical artifact / plot device called the Monado, and him and his friend Ryan decide to venture out to face the Mechon that killed Fiora, which during this invasion was the first ever Mechon that anyone's ever seen that has a face. Currently in my party is the two of them plus a woman named Sharla, who we encountered on the way to face these Mechon. And she had a son or a brother or something named Juju. And we met him too, but he ended up being taken by another Mechon with a face. And now he is at their old colony where they used to live. And for some reason, the Mechon didn't just kill him like the other ones have been. And this faced Mechon also spoke. That's where I'm at. Along the way, they're dropping more lore about the Monado and all of the things it can do. So I'm like, as I learn about it, I get to use them, which is like a shield ability, a speed ability, a power up ability, and everything. And it's pretty cool. Despite not being an RPG guy, I am really enjoying this game and the combat, and I'm in it for the story, like I've said before, but it's been really clicking with me. So expect more. Okay, section 2 is the segment that I talked about last week, which is going to be talking about playing Fortnite with my dad. We're going to call this segment Fortnite Father Royale, I guess. That just rolls off the tongue. This week, we played a lot of the new game mode Blitz Royale, which was fun, but honestly kind of made me feel like an iPad baby, just because of how fast-paced the game mode is. I hope they keep doing interesting things with the mode. In its state last week, I was glad to be using all the really interesting mythics and exotics they've released throughout the last chapter. My favorite part, though, was the boons and the medallions from across the last seasons and how they've had the chance to synergize with each other. At some point, I had the boon that gives you infinite sprint after doing parkour, the boon that gives you the gold rush effect after doing parkour, and the boon that gives you increased speed when you're holding your pickaxe out. And so all I had to do was like mantle onto something, and then I could just go crazy fast whenever I wanted to. And it was really fucking cool. It reminded me of some of the synergies between perks that you could get back in chapter 4 when perks were like a main feature of the BR. We played a couple of matches of BR, speaking of, at the end of our session, and we did end up getting just one BR win. I plan on like keeping track of how many wins we get every week. The end game was kind of crazy for that one game, but we were also going crazy, and we ended up winning as S+ rank heroes, which is the system that is in place for this season. Also, my dad likes to complain about me being a kill thief, stealing kills and such, but I'd like to note that he also conceded by telling me that I just kill everyone else before he gets the chance, and I'm not actually stealing them from him in the moment. And additionally, the only match that I'm showing during the segment is a blitz match in which he reboots me, and so evidently he is pulling his weight more than he would like to admit, and he's not just getting carried. The rest of this video is about Fortnite 2, but I've got a couple of clips that didn't make it into the Dad Royale section, or what I'm going to talk about in a minute, plus a few Apex clips, plus a few old Fortnite clips that I felt like sharing, but like I said, they didn't fit. So I had my goat, Gage, make a montage of the highlights from this week, which I'm going to play now.
Oh, I hit the guy for 158 to the fucking head.
One of the reasons that I'm so late to making the video this week is because I actually spent so much fucking time watching that repeatedly. He is an incredible editor, and that's like so cool to have a montage made of my clips. So I watched it so much, and I'll link his channel up here in the little eye thing that can pop up if I remember, but I'll also link it in the description. His channel is BinkleBopV2, and that's where the rest of his stuff is, and it's really cool. You should go watch it, but I'm not going to be editing like that, unfortunately. So if you were an eagle-eyed viewer during the Dad Night section, you might have noticed that my dad has the OG Twitch Prime exclusive skins from back in the day, which is because we started playing this game very early on in its life. I started playing this game in late 2017, and which is due to my cousin introducing it to me, and we introduced it to my dad a couple weeks later, which was right at the tail end of Chapter 1, Season 2. Alas, the rest of this video is not about my dad playing Fortnite, though. I played as much of the game as I could when I was 12. God, I feel old. But it was one of the first games that I fell in love with for like a conscious analysis of the game design itself. Specifically at 12 years old, I thought that the way that the basic AR in the game was designed was really cool because of the numbers specifically. The white through blue rarities, though they output different damage numbers, were all functionally the same with their max time to kill, because from 30 to 33 damage, each of them could fully kill a player in 7 body shots if they were at max HP. And regardless of how much damage you're doing in between there, it's always going to be 7 shots because, 6 times 30 and 6 times 33 are both below 200, but multiply them by 7 and they're both above 200. That's how math works. With the higher rarities, and once you change the model, which I thought was a really cool way to cue that to the player, you could kill someone in 6 shots if they were at max health, because 35 times 6 is more than 200. What do you know? But that sort of like numbers game always tickled my brain, and this was also a period in the game before cumulative damage numbers were a thing, and so I spent a lot of time like just in the match thinking about the numbers as the game went on, and which was just like a fun layer to add to my awful gameplay, because to my dismay, I didn't end up getting my first win until Season 4 of the game, despite playing since Season 2, and I only got that win because my cousin was there to carry me. I was awful when I played during Chapter 1. To this day, I'm still missing the Season X umbrella because I remain too shit at the game to get myself any wins alone or consistently at all. Honestly, I have no way of knowing, but I don't think that I even got my first solo win until Chapter 2. Back to the weapon design, though. Fortnite constantly innovated with the creative weapon and item designs, so I'm just going to spitball some of my favorites from Chapter 1, but there's a ton more weapons in later seasons that I love too. First of all, the classic, the pump shotgun. Everyone loves this weapon, but I'm specifically talking about the period of time where it was balanced in preparation for the purple and gold ones to release, because there was a white, a green, and a blue one, and the blue one could hit for 200 maximum to the head, which I think encouraged the most like skillful or creative gameplay, because the only ways you were going to get that 200 to the head was if you were super sneaky and got a perfect shot on someone without them knowing you were there, if you were super skillful and could force the situation to get that perfect shot, or if you were just crazy lucky, which most people were not. I don't think many people hit perfect 200s with the blue pump when it could do that. Another classic is the original heavy AR. It came out in blue, purple, and gold rarities, but the blue one had the damage numbers of the gold scar, which was a really cool way to be able to do those 6 taps like I mentioned earlier. And with the scar, you had to tap fire from long range anyways to continue getting your shots. And so having a slower fire rate on the heavy AR just made it more accessible to be able to do that. And it was a really cool weapon to have in the game. Everyone loved the hunting rifle back in the day, but an incredibly slept on weapon, maybe the most slept on weapon in all of Fortnite ever, was the original infantry rifle. I'm talking like pre-patch, before they turned it to hit scan. The community hated it because it was projectile. Everyone, like all the content creators, would complain about getting no reg shots, which just meant that they weren't hitting the projectile and they were treating it like a hit scan weapon. And they called the weapon bad, but completely misunderstood the point of the weapon when it came out. It had the same exact bullet trajectory as the hunting rifle, which everyone loved, like I said, but it also had permanent first shot accuracy like any shot from a hunting rifle could have. It didn't have the headshot multiplier that the hunting rifle had, which meant there was less payoff if you were skilled at using it, but each individual shot did half of the damage of the hunting rifle, and it fired way faster than the hunting rifle. It had 8 shots rather than just the 1 of the hunting rifle, and so you could output very consistent damage with it if you were skilled enough to be able to know where your bullets are going to go and be able to use it properly. You could absolutely beam someone, and it was simply a lower risk, lower reward version of the hunting rifle, but with a very similar skill ceiling. I will die on this hill that it was better before it was made hit scan. It's definitely a very fun weapon now that there's the higher rarity ones and that it is hit scan, but it's blatantly broken. And I think the perfectly accurate hit scan weapons that are in this game are a plague and a crutch in the modern version of Fortnite. Honorable mentions in Chapter 1 go to the suppressed sniper rifle, shadow grenades, I'm not sure if that's the exact name, but if you know, you know, and the storm flip. I know Fortnite has always been a game about building, but its weapon and item designs are what has kept me coming back for damn near 8 years now. I stopped playing the game during Chapter 2, which I think a lot of people did, but also it was kind of booming during Chapter 2. Anyways, I got sick of the way the game worked with constantly being beat by players that were far more invested in the building mechanic than I ever was. I know the argument is just get good, and like, yeah, I could have, but I wasn't really interested in doing so. And I don't really enjoy the way that the building meta developed with time and everything. I always love the idea of the Fortnite shown in original trailers, and even to an extent modern trailers, where they have like edited build pieces that are obstacles rather than just boxes that you fight out of. I wish that it could have progressed in that way, but it didn't. And that's okay, because I actually love keeping up with competitive Fortnite. It's really cool to see packed end games with top players and watching them do things I never could have imagined. And the dynamic of like holding space with materials and everything is really cool. I like the way that piece control works, especially for a viewer. I think it's like really fluid to watch. But I also really appreciate some things with like the culture of the comp scene. I really like that Clix has never won an FNCS. I think we should keep that up. And I really liked when all the pro players in the Pro-Am beamed Ali out of the sky. I think that was a pretty good move. Good shit coming out of the Fortnite competitive scene. Anyways, I came back in Chapter 3. I dabbled with Chapter 3 Season 1 because I heard about the Spider-Man mythic, and I think that's still probably the best collab to ever come to the game. Just such fun movement. And I also played a bit of Chapter 3 Season 2 because I really, really wanted the Prowler skin that was the secret skin in the Battle Pass that season, but I did not play enough of it despite very much enjoying the new Zero build mode, and I only have the glider to show for it, and I don't really have anything that goes with it, so I never run it. But because I played on the tail end of that season, I ended up being around for Chapter 3 Season 3, which I think is one of, if not the most underrated season of all time. It had the stinker of the Charge SMG, but other than that, it had the 2-shot shotgun, which is one of my favorite shotguns of all time. It was hard to learn, but really fun to use once you got the hang of it. The grapple glove was all that anyone could ask for, with bringing back the Spider-Man mythic in a way that was like IP friendly. There was the reality saplings, which were a really fun mechanic, and I think, in my opinion, was like the most creative, at least, maybe not the best, but one of my favorite ways to deliver mythic guns to the players. And I think bosses are they're fun, but they're everywhere now, and it's just less intriguing when a boss drops a mythic now. The heavy sniper got brought back, the Kamehameha was in the game for the first time, and vehicles were in this really fun balancing spot where they were like powerful, but you had to kind of put in the effort to get them there. Me and my friends would always drop at Greasy Grove, and we would have to find a cow catcher, good tires, and then have to make sure that our truck was fueled up before we left Greasy Grove. It didn't really benefit us all that much, but it was fun. Also, that version of Greasy Grove, Chapter 3, Season 3, that's like overgrown with the mushrooms and everything, is to this day the best Fortnite POI to ever grace the Fortnite Island. I really think that the yearly Fortnite formula for chapters is a very successful one. I think that there's definitely some shortcomings in terms of like story and everything, but that's not what people play the game for. I think it brings a lot of fresh mechanics that wouldn't be here otherwise, and I'm a really big fan. Moving to the end of the chapter, the Evo Chrome shotgun that next season was really cool, as well as the Chrome splashes themselves. Great mechanics. And then chapter 4 ended up being really cool too, with the addition of perks. And that first season I think was probably the best that chapter 4 ended up being. Had the best loot, like the Thunder Shotgun, the Twin Mag SMG, the Shockwave Bow paired with the Soaring Sprints. That was the perk combo that I was mentioning earlier, which was absolutely incredible for mobility and utility. The true unsung GOAT of that season though, and that chapter, and debatably the entire game, was the Excalibur rifle. It had 3 rounds in a magazine, and it shot a projectile that was a sword, and it did half of its damage on impact, and it did half of its damage on an explosion, like a second after it hit, and it would stick to people. Honestly, it was never the best weapon, but the mythic version could actually one-shot to the head if you also hit the explosive damage, which you're gonna if you hit to the head. And I think that, plus a completely unique bullet travel time and drop, meant that it was like a crazy high skill ceiling weapon that I only really got to appreciate like at the tail end of the season. Probably the most fun part of this weapon was that it could be comboed with a pump shotgun to sort of double pump like people used to back in the day as a projectile weapon. Like if you're hitting something, is probably just luck, but it was fun as hell. They actually brought it back this week, which is why I'm talking about it so much, for just a day. And it was really fun to walk down memory lane and play with it again. And I hope it has its time in the sun once again. Fortnite has a crazy vault full of really cool weapons. Those crazy good ideas are what keep me in the game. I need to wrap it up, but I think I'll always have my eye on Fortnite, no matter how much it ends up stagnating. I'm not the biggest fan of the current chapter, and obviously I still play, but that's kind of just because I can play with so many different people, which I think is one of the biggest strengths of the game. But regardless, those creative designs continued and will continue. It continued through chapter 4, and chapter 5 was great, will probably forever be my favorite chapter because all of the weapons were projectile based, and they're probably never going to do that again. There's like new modes and shit now. I'm so glad that Fortnite Festival exists to have a rhythm game in the mainstream again. And Reload is really fun too, despite being filled with the smelliest of sweats. Expect to hear about Fortnite very often. I'll definitely have more lengthened thoughts on Fortnite to share in the future, just like I did today, but sometime later down the line. I won't do that back to back. Anyways, with the little bit of Apex sprinkled in there in that montage, my week was pretty much just Fortnite and Xenoblade otherwise. I do have some more creative plans for what to play next week, so please don't get bored of me just talking about Fortnite and Xenoblade. To my friends watching this video, maybe comment something other than first and tell me about one of your favorite memories with Fortnite. I know most of us played it as a kid, but the rest of you at least have played it recently, and it'd be sick to hear a memory. Thanks for watching until the end, and I'll see you again next week.